Dear friends, I'm glad to meet you all here. It's Tuesday, 29th of March. It's 29 in Kiev time, or Moscow time. It is day 34 of Ukraine-Russia war. After a brief pause, a brief break with Olexiy Arestovych once again. Is everything all right? Yes, everything is good. I had to suffer quite a bit from our fans who were asking me a ton of questions, what happened with the day yesterday. Yeah, there is nothing I can do. It's war, there are external circumstances. I have to remind, please share this broadcast on your social media and other channels, and subscribe to my channel and to Alexei's channel. All right. Let's start with generally completed or proved prognosis. Americans are confirming that Russian troops are leaving Chernihiv area. Is it correct? We took Irpin. There was a fight, and we took it. They're actually right now leaving Kiev Oblast. How is it happening? Well, they got back in columns and leaving, but we're still fighting. We're not just letting them go. We're still hitting them. And by the way, they're retreating rather properly. They added landmines, and they have the UAVs above the columns to track our movements. We're still trying to destroy as many of them as we can while they're leaving. It is not a quiet exit, meaning that we stopped shooting and they're leaving. No, they're leaving and shooting at everything that moves, and even at empty houses, trying to level everything around. And we are attacking them as they're leaving. Are they moving to the territory of Russia? Yes, they are, and I suspect they will be thrown to the Lugansk and Donetsk areas. So, wait, does it mean that there is nothing left when they leave? Well, the way they're leaving, it appears that Kiev region will actually be empty. There is a little bit of them still left, but they're leaving en masse. What about Bucha and Gostomel? I need to clarify that, but from the positions, let's say in Bravarsky direction, it's a mass exodus. There are some forces that are still there, but they can probably leave a little bit, but there is no real strategy in leaving these troops because they'll be destroyed. So yeah, what's the point? They'll get destroyed. You have to note that everything follows as we predicted. Well, yes, I have to state once again that, because people will be saying you're all faking here. No, we did predict that that's how it's likely going to happen, and Rudskoy, representative of the General Command, on the 25th, several days passed, and even Matvienko, also known as Matva, the head of Russian Senate. So even she is saying now that the goal was to save Donbass. They were never thinking about occupying anything. Right, although we do remember they were planning to take Kiev and do the May parade here. Yeah, they were talking about destroying the biolabs and taking over the cities. Internet remembers everything. Nothing happened, they got nothing. Yeah, they can still say what they want to say now, that their goals were lesser, but... So, how big is the retreat? Is it 10,000, 20,000? I can say they're leaving in big detachments, about 250 units, 300 units, meaning soldiers and pieces of equipment. So, meaning the mass exodus. They should have been growing this group, but they're actually leaving. Yeah, but they don't have reserves. All these stories, we actually have our own sofa battle commanders with IP no more Eastern than 12, and they're trying to teach us how to fight. You know, that's the usual. The sofa detachments. That is true. They think that they know what's happening in Russia, that they have 7 million reserves and thousands of tanks, but they don't really know about cases like a commander who's committed suicide because he only could supply 1 unit instead of 20 tanks. The problem of all this, why did we have such a breakthrough in Istanbul? I had really active days. I couldn't read much. I hear that in Russian networks, people are screaming about why did we lose 20,000 people, Chechnya number 2, fascists, not fascists. We have to understand that actually this is truth. Everything they're writing, or most of it, is true. So it is a deceit, as they're writing. Well, it depends what you call it, but the goals of military campaign were not achieved. They always call that in Russia treason. Well, it is then, if they choose to do that, but we need to show them how many people did we destroy here. If we actually do provide the materials about how many people did we destroy when they were trying to attack our cities, they'll be blown away. The question is, if you look carefully now at the agreement in Istanbul in Turkey, you can see that Ukraine enhanced all of their positions. So we used to be a neutral country without guarantees, now we became a neutral country with guarantees. So the goal of war is to have peace before the war. So when one country enhances all the positions they have during negotiations, and some of those even disappear that side did not want, there are no denazification or humanitarian bloc with the Russian language. This is called victory. Wait. Let's talk separately about negotiations. It's important. So if we continue military story, they will likely take deep defense near Kherson. They'll try to do everything so we don't cross Dnieper. And it'll be our problem to traverse such a wide river. It's a complicated task. And the second is that they'll throw all these resources they have, they'll throw at Mariupol and Donbass region. I actually start getting details about Volnovakha. It used to be the direction of main hit. We had one brigade holding that advance there, and our brigade suffered greatly. Why did not they retreat? The soldiers said, we will die first because we cannot leave. There are kids and citizens leaving. So they were holding as long as they could. So Russians took Volnovakha. Yeah, they did. There was a crazy concentration of power on that direction. So they took Volnovakha and went a little bit north, trying to connect to Marinka. It's basically connecting from Izum and Volnovakha to try to surround several brigades of ours there. They crossed Izum. They threw some pontoon bridges. Izum itself is holding. But if you throw all that group from Kiev and Chernigov, and that's what's happening. So if they throw it there, it'll be pretty hard for us there. So is that direction Izum, Kharkov, and Lugansk? Yes. Also part of Lugansk, Popasna, Lysychansk, Severodonetsk, because that's what they will be trying to develop, because the task number one is to achieve the administrative borders of Lugansk and Donetsk regions. But it is hard for us to compete there. We're probably keeping about a quarter of Lugansk region still, and Donetsk, they only have maybe 56% of it. If you remember, First War, Second World War, these areas were always contested. They're always a difficult war theater. So next week there'll be really hard fighting in these areas, and the result of these fights will determine the flow of the negotiation process. We're online for 10 minutes. There's about 143,000 people watching us. Let's continue. Once again, please post links to this cast. Share on your social media, send to your friends, messengers, or any other means. So here's another question. How would Ukraine answer? Would there be a transfer of the units that you can from Kiev and Chernihiv? Can you provide any help to the south and east? Of course, we will not be waiting for the other group to be destroyed. The question is methods, how are we going to do that? But of course, we're not going to sit on our hands and wait till the other groups get destroyed. There'll be a big fight down there. It's happening now. Our scenery there is pretty reminiscent of moonscape. It's bald. There are no trees, no twigs, just the craters from shelling. So the forces of Ukraine military, considering that lengthy conflict for over a month, do you have reserves for further continuation of the conflict? Yes, we do. It is very important because all we're saying here, people can start thinking that, oh, we'll win a lot more if we do that, if we just go to that front. And we need to show them that they will lose thousands more, maybe 10 more, 20 more thousand. But it seems like it's what we talked about. They will lose more people, will grind through them. We have discussed that it'll be the same story. We'll come back to the same point, plus 10 more thousand dead Russian boys, but it seems like somebody wants to try and wants to report to Vladimir Putin that we have lost 6 advancements out of 8, but 2 of them we got something. All right, let's talk more about negotiations now, a little more in depth. And I did promise our viewers to ask you this about Abramovich, because Russian side, Peskov, said this figure is accepted by both Kiev and Moscow. I understand you're not a participant of negotiations and you cannot comment on the internal kitchen, but from Kiev point of view, doesn't it look like some Moscow trickery to use a figure kind of like Berezovsky, who's like a 5th leg on a dog or an extra wheel on a car? What is his purpose? I can cite Podolyak, who is participating in negotiations, and he says that Abramovich is the figure who helps to lead negotiations to success. So I suspect he's helping somehow. He was doing official movements that, will sell Chelsea and give money to the victims of war or victims of conflict. But yet he did do that. Others didn't when he actually said that. How do you gauge that there are no negotiations tomorrow? They have not achieved any finalization today. Does it change situation at the moment that there is no intermediary agreement? Well, we talked about that. There are not going to be any confirmation on negotiations until the military conflict is resolved in the east. So it is the factor, of course it is, because all the negotiations are done after the fighting is completed. Russian side does not have the understanding They still have an illusion about Izum operation and Mariupol operation. All right, we'll have to prove that they're mistaken. There are three options here. They won and they tied us up and they'll be in a better position. Second, Kiev is going to be free, Kharkov is going to be free, Sumy direction is going to be free. Kherson, they'll win something. So formally they'll probably can sell something to their own population, halfway through. Although we'll have their big moral defeat and military defeat in this case. And a good case is if we manage to keep Mariupol and Lugansk and Donetsk, and then we'll have a much better position. Or intermediary situation might also happen when they took some, or we took some. I was speaking about that on the 26th of February in your interview, including. The battlefield will decide that. Oh, it's better to talk about this, so nobody will be able to tell us that we did change our opinion. So, in my opinion, the war continues. Russian side is continuing it because it has the illusion of possible success. In the north of Donetsk region and southwest of Lugansk, Rubezhne and Lysychansk. Probably between a week, 10 days, up to 2 weeks, where we'll see where it goes. I don't think Russia has any reserves for the third round, so they will throw everything they have in that second round. So, this position that's somewhat changed, that Rudskoy mentioned, that their propaganda people are talking about it. Putin is still quiet. As a first person, he has not said anything about it. In your opinion, do you think it's a military position that they're trying to push onto Putin? Like, we cannot continue fighting here and we need to move to the east where we actually can do something? We cannot continue doing it everywhere. This is a question about how much does the head leader manage his military. I think he manages, and I don't believe that he is being manipulated. I think he got the real information. They finally reported to him that technically it's impossible to continue attacking everywhere, and then probably decided together to do that, go for that plan that we did not have intent of occupying big cities, that we're moving troops. It's a goodwill gesture from Russia. They're already kind of touching upon the possible retreat routes for themselves, to not talk about demilitarization and all that. I think it's not military who are pushing him to do anything. It's the reality that is forcing him to make these decisions. Okay, that's also important. And frankly, it's not just reality. It's Ukrainian military who achieved that. Let's talk about the West. We love it. We're 19 minutes live, so we can still do that. Do you think Western position will change, considering local but still a success of Ukraine? We're discussing it daily, but every day is changing it. And one day is more optimistic, another is more skeptical. What about now? Is it easier to help the winner? If they will start helping now, the equipment that we need is probably 2 weeks to a month, or maybe more. That is the equipment that we really, really need. So that help probably will not provide any impact for the current battle near Izum. It likely will provide an effect further, depending upon the volume of it and if there'll be any continuation after Izum operation. But Izum will have to fight on our own, including the help that they provide us, but for the most part it's infantry support. Of course, we'll be overstaffed with anti-tank, anti-aircraft. We actually shot 7 aircraft during the last day. It's great for defense, but in order to advance, you need heavy equipment. You need tanks, and you need long-range artillery. In order to advance, you need tanks, armored infantry vehicles, and artillery that can shell enemies from afar. And I don't see that in our near future. Anti-tank, anti-infantry, yeah, we do have a lot of that. So we'll see. We heard from the West some data that, mostly from America, that they're looking for Soviet or post-Soviet equipment that is well known to the Ukrainian side. Exactly, the ones that we don't need to retrain for. Because if it's completely Western equipment, there'll be a lengthy period for our troops to learn it. Are there reserves like that? Do you think they have some? They do have some, but the quality and quantity of Soviet equipment left in the world, it's questionable. The last Soviet article is at least 30 years old. And Russian and Ukrainian equipment were not sold en masse. And again, military deals also mean pretty close relationships with between the buyer and the seller. So very unlikely the buyer will provide these weapons to our side. So I don't see where can we get tanks or armored vehicles. All right, 196,000 people watching us live. We have 35,000 likes. We're live for 22 minutes. I keep reminding to new viewers to post links to this cast in their social media and subscribe to Feigin Live and Olexiy Arestovych channels. Interactive link is at the bottom of this video, so don't forget to subscribe. All right, we're closing to the end. Let's talk about refugees. Another important question that I wanted to touch. So in military conditions that we have now, on the western part of Ukraine, according to different estimates, there are over 7 million people, refugees from the eastern side of Ukraine. What is the perspective of their return if, for example, Kiev and Chernigov oblasts are going to be cleaned from any military conflict and remnants of it? Can they be returned to the houses? People need to live somewhere, they need to eat food and get medical care, child care. By the most modest estimates, we have 8.3 million refugees. Their problem in the areas where a lot of fighting was going on, a lot of buildings are destroyed and a lot of shells that have not exploded. Also, there are a lot of mines, and the demilitarization of those areas can last up to a year. Like in every war, there'll be villages that survived fine, or quarters or parts of the city that survived fine, and there are others that were destroyed down to the ground. So every family will have to decide for themselves. I do not think most people will come back to their exact location. Mariupol, 90% of buildings are destroyed. Same thing with Chernigov, about 50% of city is destroyed. Kharkov, 1,200 high-rises destroyed. They're unexploded artillery shells, bombs, bodies of dead soldiers. Russian army retreating, they put landmines into everything they can. And that's a lengthy story about bringing back the normality to those villages and cities. It'll be probably easier for villages because they were still, in many cases, using well water. Gas for heating will be more of a problem. And return to cities, that's a lengthy proposition. 25 minutes online, over 200,000 people watching us. Let's not overfeed them and leave them a little bit hungry. Let's meet tomorrow. Thank you, Olexiy. Thank you, our viewers. Come tomorrow. Let's talk about 35th day tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody.